have seen the torch of freedom pass from hand to yearning hand, and the vision of our fathers spread hope throughout this land, as the dream some fought and died for in my heart becomes my own. I will strive to keep her promise, America, my home. America, America, may God bless America, and freedom reign across America, my home. From the shorelines to the prairies, to the cities great and small, we have reaped the fruits of justice and liberty for all. So with deep appreciation for the blessings of freedom that we know in this wonderful country of ours, I'm Dr. George Simon, welcoming you to another edition of Character Matters. This is the program where we talk about what I consider to be the defining issue of our time, the character crisis that we face and that affects so many aspects of our daily life, all of them, in fact, and what it is that I've been trying to do about in my professional career as a therapist for over 35 years, writing and blogging and trying to get the word out there that we really have to make a change. We have to make a difference, and it starts with each and every one of us. It's a matter of the heart. And so I write about it in my books, In Sheep's Clothing, Understanding and Dealing with Manipulative People. Some regard that book, which has had the privilege of being out now over 20 years as a bestseller. It was 20 years in September, on the 16th of September, a milestone for In Sheep's Clothing, and as I mentioned, many regard it as the definitive book on manipulative characters. And then my other book, Character Disturbance, The Phenomenon of Our Age, which is an in-depth study of all the no-goodniks you're likely to encounter in your lifetime, the folks that cause you trouble in your relationships, how to understand them, how to deal with them, and above all else, what to look for when you go looking for help. And then also my book with Dr. Kathy Armistead, How Did We End Up Here? The Survivor's Guide to Understanding and Dealing with the toxic people in your life, how to get along in this character-disturbed age of ours, how to pick up the pieces and move on, how to really judge when somebody is sincere in their efforts to change, etc., etc. And then my book for the Christian faith community, The Judas Syndrome. And I'm very proud of that book. I'll talk more about that later. So if you also happen to be one of those internet surfers and you're looking for timely articles, you can mosey on over to my personal blog at manipulative-people.com. That's www.manipulative-people.com. It's not just a resource for understanding manipulators, but it's a treasure trove of articles on all the disturbed characters you're likely to encounter, how to understand, how to deal with them, timely articles on getting the right kind of help. I'm presently in the midst of a series previewing my upcoming book on the 10 Commandments of Character. And so that series is presently underway on the blog, and we're talking about impulse control and the impulsive actors and the impulsive thinkers among us, and what has to happen in early character formation for that not to be the case. So you'll find that on the manipulative-people.com blog, along with hundreds of other timely articles. And then I also write for a blog based in the United Kingdom, Psychology, Philosophy, and Real Life at www.counselingresource.com. That's counseling with 2 L's, resource.com. And I have an article in the bin that should probably hit the blog sometime toward the early part of next week on the topic that I talked about last week, namely my trip to Israel. And you'll find a reflective piece on that trip, hopefully early next week, on the counselingresource.com blog. So avail yourself of all the works, and if you have a mind to, whether or not you're a professional, the workshops I'm doing are tailored for professionals, but if you have a mind to, and you want to attend one of the seminars, I'll be in Pittsburgh next week on Wednesday, or this coming week, I should say, this next Wednesday, and then in Canton, Ohio on Thursday, and then in Cleveland, Ohio on Friday. So check it out. You can find out more information on my manipulative-people.com blog. You can also go to the Cross Country Education blog at www.crosscountryeducation.com and search for live seminars under my name, Dr. George Simon, and you'll find my schedule through the end of the year. So if you want to join the conversation tonight, the number to call is 718-717-8296. That's 718-717-8296. I'm happy to take your call, anything you want to ask, a situation you want to address, something you want to share that you think would be of interest to the audience. Give us a call at 718-717-8296. For those of you who are new listeners to the program, at the beginning and close of the program, we have a piece that my wife and I wrote that is a patriotic piece that celebrates our best ideals. It's meant to inspire. And you might wonder why we have that on a program dedicated to character matters, and that's precisely because we have in spades an example like we've never had before in our current election cycle about how important character is to the survival of this republic, to a free society. This intricate interdependence, this inextricable relationship between freedom and character that the founders were very aware of. They knew this very well. They knew that if you give decent folks, folks with a solid internal moral compass, if you give such folks maximum freedom especially from government intrusion and overregulation, don't oppress them with a bunch of rules. Just let them be, because their internal set of rules will guide them. That was the notion. You give decent people maximum freedom, they will tend to not only prosper themselves, but create opportunities for others and build great societies. But when, unfortunately, you have too many people without a solid internal moral compass, abusing freedom, there is an ever-present danger that government will try to remedy the situation by imposing rules and restrictions, by oppressing its people. We've seen this time and time again throughout history. It's an unfortunate circumstance that's dictated by the situation. And if ever the importance of character were so clearly evident, it would be in this election cycle. Because we have some decent people running for president. Unfortunately, the most decent people got pretty well smacked and will not get sufficient votes. One fairly decent guy had the cards stacked against him by the establishment in the first place. So he didn't really have much of a chance. It's unfortunate. There was a groundswell of support, especially among the youth of the country. But there's an old saying, nice guys finish last. It couldn't be more true than, unfortunately, in the last several years of our elections in this land of ours. And unfortunately, we face a situation where we have two individuals of fairly questionable character, one of highly questionable character, seeking to lead us. And you know, we have a lesson from history. We've had several fairly dubious characters, I might say, who actually didn't do that bad a job administering our country's affairs. But there's too much at stake now. Way too much at stake. We're not in great shape. We're not in great shape economically, socially, or community-wise, family-wise. We're not in great shape in many ways. And we really need strong leadership. We need more than strong leadership. We need principled leadership. And that's what we're really lacking. And I know there's been some discussion in the news lately about the latest faux pas, if you want to say, that comes to mind, the latest example of the boorishness and crudeness that Mr. Trump is capable of. And I did myself a favor today, and I actually watched and listened to the video myself, because I've been reading the reports on the various news publications online, and I've been hearing the reports on television news and radio news, and so I decided to take a gander at this video myself. Now, I may offend some folks here. I don't mean to, certainly, but I want to be pretty frank here and open. I certainly don't condone any of what was said in this video. But I have to tell you, I have heard not only similar stuff, but I've heard worse. Banality is nothing new. Openly hostile and possibly even misogynistic attitudes toward women is nothing new. In my books, I talk about how with narcissism, which has its roots in an egocentricity rooted in a lack of empathy, care and concern, and positive regard for others. When you have that, such boorishness, such disdain, such objectification of other people is not unusual. And we have been in the age of rampant narcissism for some time. It's not just boorish locker room talk. It's a way of looking at people that frankly reflects a level of disdain and a degree of objectification that makes positive, healthy, constructive human relations darned near impossible. And that's what's happened to us in the last several years. Donald Trump is not the only narcissistic individual out there. I've seen, unfortunately, far too many relationships go south because of the manner in which one partner viewed the other partner as an object to be coveted at first, and maybe the other party felt so flattered for being coveted so strongly that they were seduced into a relationship with someone who would eventually treat them like the object that they always saw them. And it wouldn't be evident at first. It would only become evident later. I've seen this happen hundreds of times. But we're talking about leadership and what we should demand of our leaders. And it's unfortunate, but we live in a time where vested interests just want their bidding done by the person that they put into office or help get into office. And they don't really care. They don't really care about character. And therefore they get exactly the government they deserve. You know, this video is pretty unnerving. I mean, it's so banal, and it's two guys. It's two guys trying to prove what absolute studs they are, and also trying to prove how how they view women. And you can hear such talk in just about any locker room in America. In fact, one of our former presidents in the locker room on the golf course with one of his close friends, Bill Clinton and Vernon Jordan, were overheard many times with the same kind of banter, same kind of talk. And those kinds of attitudes were reflected in that president's behavior later on. It's no surprise. As a matter of fact, there's a track record there, history there with that individual. So, you know, we live in an age where character disturbance of one type or another is rampant, especially narcissism, especially this tendency to look really good on the outside when you want to impression manage people, but to actually hold people in relatively low regard, to objectify folks, to have a real lack of care and concern, to only be concerned about personal power and prestige. All about self-glorification. And I can't believe that we haven't had enough of this yet. It's just really disheartening to me. So once again, no matter how we vote, we're going to get what we deserve. Matter of fact, the very fact that we have before us what we have before us, who we have before us in this election is a real testament to what's happened to us culturally. I'm going to be watching the debates tonight. I don't know about you. I hope you will. I think we need to be as maximally informed as possible. I pretty well made up my mind what I have to do, and I almost hate myself for it. I many times before felt like I had to make a choice between a lesser of two evils. But in my entire lifetime as a voting citizen of this country, I have never felt that way more than I feel that way this time around. And it's really, really sickening. It's a sad, sad statement. But I truly believe in my heart. I really believe this deep down. I wouldn't be doing all the work that I would have been doing over all these years. I wouldn't have been writing all my books. I wouldn't have been blogging every week on 2 different blogs. I wouldn't have been doing workshops all across the country. I wouldn't be doing any of this, making TV appearances, radio appearances, having this program. I wouldn't be doing any of it if I didn't sincerely believe that there is a new order coming, that people are waking up, to the importance of character and where it has to begin. And perhaps we're going to have to learn some lessons really seriously. Perhaps we're going to have to learn some very hard lessons before we truly get the message. I pray that isn't so, but if history is any teacher, it seems to be the way it has to be. Seems to be that we have to learn things the hard way. And perhaps that'll be the case this time too. But at any rate, I'm going to be watching tonight. I don't know about you, and I don't know if that's what's on your mind tonight, if you want to call in or whether you have another question you want to ask or something else you'd like to contribute or something you'd like to share that you think our listeners would be interested in. But in any case, if you have a mind to and you want to, if you want to join the conversation, give us a call at 718-717-8296. That's 718-717-8296, and I'll be happy to take your call. One of the things I'm going to be looking for in tonight's debate is I really want to look for any evidence whatsoever of sincerity in either of these candidates. I watch these debates fairly regularly, and I watched the last one, and I watched the vice presidential debate as well. And these folks are prepped for these things. They have their talking points. They look for their opportunities to get certain things in. And you don't see any genuineness. What you see is a planned kind of manipulation. That's what it is, pure and simple. There's always a hidden agenda, a covert attempt, an attempt to seize an opportunity to bash one person or the other. There's always misrepresentation involved in every single debate that I've looked. There's been some misrepresentation, one way or the other. I remember vividly during the primary season when Hillary and Bernie were going at it. And I mentioned this at my workshops. I give this as an example. But I mentioned how in every single debate Hillary would bring up that Bernie not only voted against the Brady bill once, he voted against it not only twice, but he voted against it 3 times. All in an attempt, all these statements, by the way, were true. He did. But this was all to cast an impression. That she knew to be false. So therefore, this is not genuine. This is manipulation, pure and simple. And it's also a lie, even though everything said was true. You can lie by saying true things. You lie by saying true things by just leaving certain other things out. And by packaging your information together is to create an impression that you know to be a false impression, but nonetheless an impression you want to make on someone, thereby manipulating them into doing something. And the impression that Hillary wanted to leave her audience, of course, was that Bernie was in the pocket of the gun lobby, which is just patently not true, and she knew it to be untrue. But this is how you manipulate. So I'm going to be looking tonight to see just how bad and in just what ways both candidates are going to be willing to engage in this kind of manipulation as opposed to being in any way genuine, in any way willing to reveal who they really are in character. I'm going to be looking for some shred of decency, some shred of integrity, so that I can feel at least a little bit better about pressing the button or pulling the lever or punching the hole, whatever kind of form they have for me at the voting booth this time. And it's just, I never thought, and I'm sure some of you feel the same way, I just never thought that it would be this bad. I never thought in my wildest dreams growing up in this wonderful country, growing through a time when things were very, very different. Oh, we've always had our problems. We've never been perfect. And we've had parts of our history that rightfully we should hold our head in shame and in disgrace. I was in middle school and in high school during a time where a revolution, a social revolution, was underway to bring civil rights to a group of people who had been horrendously disenfranchised based on nothing else but the color of their skin. We have never been perfect. We've always had our issues. But we have had our periods of better character. And I can't help but believe that we're on the cusp of turning things around. I just don't know how bad it's got to get yet before it does turn around, before there's a groundswell movement. I'm very proud to say that I've got a couple of sons, and I'm not just bragging here. It really humbles me. It humbles me truly, because both of these young men have weathered the environments that they had to face, and they have emerged not as self-centered, uncaring, power-grabbing, money-hungry individuals, but rather as very principled, conscientious, very conscientious individuals, one of whom is a wonderful father to his children, and the other, whom I know will be when the day comes that he has children. But their social awareness and their social conscientiousness makes me very proud and humbled. I'm very humbled by them. I'm especially humbled because they came to their character much earlier than I did, and they had to weather much more. They had to witness much more. They had to contend with much more in their social environment than I did. It's rough out there. This is the age still of fairly rampant narcissism, where people display themselves so shamelessly on the media and get paid ungodly sums to do it. Most of what's on the tube, most of it that we consider entertainment, is just plain trash. And our children are watching. So I have to hand it to those, and I've met several. It's amazing to me. In my professional career, I've had many exasperated parents bring their adolescent children that they were having problems with to me, thinking that these kids were going to be a just complete disaster, and lamenting the fact that everything they did didn't seem to work, and hoping that I could, quote unquote, fix their broken child, only to find out that so many of these kids were just looking for the right kind of guidance. And they had it within them. They had it within them to be really wonderful people. And so I have in my memory banks so many wonderful stories of young folks that really turned their lives around and discovered for themselves the principles on which they could build a life of integrity. And that's what I'm going to be writing about in the Ten Commandments of Character, a greatly expanded version of what I first introduced in my book, Character Disturbance. And being my own worst enemy on this count, I'm afraid to tell you, I said I'd have an update this week. I'm afraid to tell you that it isn't going to be any time soon that the Ten Commandments of Character, How to Lead a Significant Life, my fifth and possibly final book, it's not going to be any time soon that this book is available. I'm sad to say, because I'm still not happy with it. And I'm sure that my co-writer, Dr. Armistead, is not happy either, because she was hoping for this book to be written and to be out. But I'm not happy with it, and it is still in revisions and still in editing. And I'm going to say that I'll just have to announce at some point when it is ready. At first, I thought it would be the end of the summer. Then I thought the beginning of fall, but here we are at the beginning of fall, and it's still not ready. So it's going to be a while, folks, before the book is out there, and I will just have to let you know. You'll just have to sit tight and wait until this picky editor here is pleased with the final product. Which I am not right now. So it'll be a while, and I'll let you know. It may not even be at the end of this year, because my travel schedule is so heavy. I'm doing so many workshops, 2 tours in a month, and I have other things to do professionally, so it's really rough when I'm on the road all that length of time. But to be sure, I'll be doing workshops in your area, I'm sure, with the schedule I've got, and I would love to have you attend if you have a mind to, even though these workshops are geared toward professionals. They are professional workshops, and they are priced accordingly, I'm sorry to say. But all are welcome, and of all of the laypersons that I've had attend, I've had nothing but positive feedback from the individuals who attended, saying that even though some of the stuff was not stuff they fully understood, that the presentation illuminated them and made a big difference, a big impact in how they go about looking for the kind of integrity that they want to find in a relationship partner, and also dealing more effectively with those folks in their lives who have character-related problems, who tend to be manipulative or who tend to be narcissistic, or whatever the case may be. So I'm happy to say that you're welcome at any of the workshops. And this coming Wednesday, I will be in Pittsburgh, and then Thursday in Canton, Ohio, and then Friday in Cleveland. And then the following week, I go to Ann Arbor, Michigan first, and then Toledo, Ohio, and then Fort Wayne, Indiana. So I'll be a week from Wednesday in my old hometown of Ann Arbor, Michigan, That's where I did most of my growing up, from the fifth grade through high school. And some people affectionately refer to it as the People's Republic of Ann Arbor because of his liberal bent, but it's a wonderful town, a very pretty city, and I have a lot of family still based in the area. As a matter of fact, most of my family, most of my extended family on my side of the family is still based there. So it's always a treat to go back. I go back frequently, and now I have one of my sons living in the southeastern Michigan area. Excuse me. So I'm anxious to see him on one of my trips up there, hopefully in 2 weeks, and then once again 2 weeks after that in early November. So if you have a mind to and you want to attend, I'm happy to welcome you to one of the workshops. Get more information on my blog site at manipulative-people.com or go to the Cross Country Education website at www.crosscountryeducation.com. You can register online. I'm happy to have you attend. Folks, if you have a desire to participate in the program tonight, if you have a question you want to ask, if you have a situation you'd like to share, if you are dealing with a particular situation right now and you'd like my advice, maybe you're dealing with a manipulative or character disturbed person, somebody in your life who's driving you a little crazy, maybe you're experiencing the gaslighting effect, where you know that the person you're dealing with has definitely something wrong with them, but they have you feeling like you're out of your mind, then give us a call at 718-717-8296. That's 718-717-8296, and I'll be happy to take your call. Well, once again, I want to return to a little bit of a discussion on tonight's debate. And then I have something else I'd like to talk about, too. Let me mention this first. Last week I talked about my trip to Israel a little bit, and I talked about some of the impressions I formed during my time there. And I have written an article about the experience, 2 lessons that came through loud and clear to me, 2 main impressions that I formed when I was touring the land there. And I've written an article that should post, as I mentioned earlier in the hour, but for anybody who just tuned in, I've written a post that will appear on the blog Psychology, Philosophy, and Real Life at www.counselingresource.com. That's counseling with 2 L's, resource.com. And it should appear early next week. Not sure exactly what day it will post, but it should be early next week that this article will post, or at least sometime next week. And I think you'll find it. Think you'll find the article interesting, and so I hope that you'll mosey on over to that website and take a peek at the article. Several other articles. I post an article a week, and back in the earlier days, I posted far more than that. So there are many, many articles on the blog that you'll find useful, just as you will on my blog, my personal blog, at manipulative-people.com. That's www.manipulative-people.com. More information that than is in my books in some areas, but my books are still a fantastic resource. And I can't believe that after all this time, my first book is still a significant bestseller in many foreign languages, truly an international bestseller, and the definitive guide to understanding and dealing with the manipulative characters in your life. That's In Sheep's Clothing. And then my book, Character Disturbance, growing by leaps and bounds in sales this past year. I couldn't be happier. Folks have finally found in it the resource. There's been no big hype for any of my books. It's all word of mouth, which is the best kind of advertising. But Character Disturbance has it all. It's your guide to understanding all the characters in your life that make you a little crazy, that cause problems, how to understand them, how to deal with them, and especially what to look for when you're trying to get help, because I have so many people who write me weekly to say that they have been desperate to find the right kind of help. They've had experience after experience where they tried to get help to no avail. They didn't get the help they thought they were going to get. Many times, good impression managers, good manipulators are able to snow therapists, put on a good act, put on a good show, come across as different characters than they really are, and make that good impression, and yet nothing really changes. In those cases, their victims in their relationships experience what we call therapy-induced trauma, whereby they went looking for help, they went looking to feel better, and they end up feeling worse for the experience. So Character Disturbance tells you what to look for. As does my book, How Did We End Up Here? My first book with co-author Dr. Kathy Armistead, herself, both a gifted writer and a therapist with experience, and it is basically the survival guide for surviving and thriving in this character disordered world of ours, this age of narcissism, this age of rampant character disturbance. It's a survival guide. So that book as well, How Did We End Up Here? With Dr. Kathy Armistead and myself. And then lastly, for the Christian faith community, my book, The Judas Syndrome, which is also recently growing once again in popularity, and I couldn't be happier. When I go to workshops, I'm always edified that most of the attendees want all four books. That's very edifying, and they seem to want them even after they've had the benefit of having me present to them live for an entire day. So that's really pretty edifying. And I'll be having books on hand at my workshops again this coming week and the week after. So avail yourself of the blogs, my books, lots of valuable information, just like tuning into this program. And if you want to join the conversation, once again, the number to call is 718-717-8296. That's 718-717-8296, and I'll be happy to take your call. But I want to get back now to tonight's debate. And I mentioned earlier what it is I'm going to be looking for. Some shred of decency, some shred, especially, of genuineness. You know, phony people just inherently unnerve me. They unnerve me because you don't really know for sure who they are. And because you don't know who they are, there's really no predicting what they might do that might not cause a serious problem. We have experienced this so many times in the past. We've experienced it so many times in the past. But we still don't seem to learn the lesson. So, because I am faced with this horrible choice, with this deplorable choice, we have 4 possibilities really before us. One individual pretty well disqualified himself because of his lack of awareness about certain important areas, especially in foreign affairs. So he disqualified himself. Then we have this Green Party that's essentially a one-issue party. But, you know, at least I think Dr. Stein is a very intelligent and well-intended individual. Unfortunately, I think she made really not a good choice in her running mate, so I can't support that ticket either. And besides which, one issue is not going to get it. We have too many issues to be addressed. And then the 2 major candidates, both of whom have significant character-related issues. One far worse than the other. And I want to speak a little bit more to that today. This video has a lot of people upset, this latest video that Trump was seen and heard on. There's a lot of people upset. And basically, they were upset about the kind of language and the kind of demeaning talk, the banal talk, especially about women. But, you know, the coarseness, the vulgarity, only tells half the story. Because actually what you see in the video is that after this locker room talk is over, and Trump comes off this bus that he's on, talking with this guy in advance of the program, he actually behaves himself rather well. Even in the face of a young woman who's hosting, who does some mildly flirtatious stuff. So he actually behaves himself relatively well. He doesn't behave in the crude manner he brags about earlier. But of all the things said that should bother people, the thing that was most noteworthy, I thought, was this sense of entitlement that he reflected about what you can do and get away with, quote, when you're a star, end quote. When you're in the public eye, when you have all this attention, when you have money, when you have power, when you have influence, you can do whatever you want and get away with it. And this is a message that's been culturally out there for a long time, and it's really damaging. And there's this old saying, this quotation. I've forgotten the Acton somebody or other. Lord Acton Darfur Acton, I think. Something like that. Who said that power corrupts and absolute power tends to corrupt and absolute power corrupts absolutely. But in my professional career, I have found that not to be the case. I have studied people and their character for 35 years. And I've done a lot of reflecting and a lot of writing based on the experience that I've had, helping people develop their character. And I can tell you that power itself is not the corrupter. It's how people of various kinds of character regard power that is the problem. If power in itself were a corrupter, and absolute power corrupted absolutely, this is the case I make in my workshops and in my books too, then no infant among us would have a chance. Because the power that a parent has over a newborn child is absolute. But most folks holding that power approach that power with a sense of awe and reverence and with trepidation because of their care and concern, the empathy that they have, and the desire that they have for that powerlessness individual's safety and security and well-being. Most people regard that sense of power, they approach that power with trepidation and with hesitation and with a conscientiousness that allows them to use that power wisely. But defective characters, egocentric characters, narcissistic characters, those who crave power for its own sake and inevitably abuse it, want to wield it indiscriminately, and inevitably abuse it when they get it. These are the people who are corrupt to start with. And how they deal with power only reveals the nature of their character. Abraham Lincoln said that. If you want to test a man's character, if you really want to test it, then give him power. That tells you who the person is. And he had it exactly right. So I'm going to be watching tonight. I'm going to be watching carefully. Because one of these individuals is likely to be handed a lot of power. And what either of them might do with it scares me. But in one case, I'm far more petrified. I'm far more petrified because of the nature of the character that I see. And it's that sense of entitlement and that disdain for others and that lack of empathy, especially that haughty disdain for those perceived as beneath. I'm Dr. George Simon. I hope you've enjoyed the program tonight. I hope you'll take advantage of my books and other writings. I hope you'll join us next week for another edition of Character Matters. And thanks for tuning in. See you next week. Good night.